let's get to the 17th Semiosis 101 episode on general Peircean semiotic theory for illustrators and designers. This week in around 10 minutes we will put Peirce's second philosophical category of experience or consciousness into the context of visual communication and audiences. Yes, if last week we focused on the state of Peircean firstness, then this week we now move up a level to secondness. We saw last week how Peirce's language gets in the way of great ideas, especially in the context of designing or illustrating. What is secondness, I hear you ask? Well, Peirce says, secondness is that which is as it is relative to something else. Secondness is the dyadic element identified with the sense of action and reaction. That is to say, it is reaction as an element of the phenomenon. What? So, in a designer-centric way, secondness in relation to our audience's experiences is relative to something else, to action, to reaction that rests with the people we design for, our audience. The people we need to semiotically connect to for illustrators and designers' visual communication work to be successful. Now, in today's video, we will philosophically position illustrators and designers' crafting of visual representation by applying semiosis in a state of secondness. So, subscribe, hit that bell, and give me a second, or actually 600 seconds, and you'll see what I mean.
Hey, welcome to this week's talk. We're building up from the things themselves, talking about the phenomenological states that Peirce defines, the three phenomenological states that Peirce defines, in which semiotic theory operates, but more importantly, that we as human beings inhabit, whether or not we realize it or not. So let's just dive straight in. The previous week's video was about firstness. This week we're dealing with secondness. So Peirce, and we're reusing again the actual tweets from this Twitter account, CS Peirce Speaks, which is a Twitter account that posts quotes from Peirce. And Peirce says, in the ideas of firstness, secondness, and thirdness, the three elements or universal categories appear under their forms of firstness. So it's in the title. Firstness is the state where you are not aware and then you are aware. You move from things to, that resembles something that I know. Is this telling something to me that I need to know? And we're talking here from the point of view of the audience interpreting the work that you do, whether it's illustration, graphic design, whatever. So firstness is an existent state. It's spontaneous. It's that moment when we're surrounded by stimuli all the time, but there's a moment when you're aware of something. So there must have been a moment when you weren't aware of the thing. And it's in that transition from not aware to aware that helps designers and illustrators make that semiotic connection to your target audience. But this week we're going to be dealing with secondness, which is a state where things are relative to other things. And then next week we're going to deal with thirdness, which is when it's all mediated by firstness and secondness into thirdness. Okay, so don't worry if you're not following me so far. By the end of today's talk, you'll get a bit more of a clearer picture of what Peirce is talking about. And as usual, Semiosis 101 is about putting Peirce into designer-centric terms to make it relevant to designers and illustrators, because Peirce, not always the most clear writer about what he's meaning, but there's some great ideas in Peirce that is applicable straight into the design process. Okay, so we're dealing here with a sense of secondness. So I'll go to the top corner first. Now Peirce says, I always distinctly said that the origin of genuine secondness was in experiencing. Not experiencing, in experiencing. So by having a lived experience, our target audience have more things that you as designers and illustrators can connect with. by understanding what they will encounter and what they will know, helps you as designers and illustrators to tap in and hook them in with visual language that they will become aware of. So secondness is that mode or element of being, that state of being. Humans exist in the world. We are beings in the world. We are being in the world. So let's just go through that again. Secondness is that mode or element of being by which any subject is such as it is in a second subject, regardless of any third, or rather, the category is the leading and characteristic element in this definition, which is prominent in the ideas of dyadic relativity. Relation, action, effort, existence, individuality, opposition, negation, dependence, blind force. What? Just say what you mean. And this is the example where Peirce comes from. He says all of this, but then you have to then go, what the hell does this mean? So let me just save you that headache, and let me just try and put it into some context, a designer-centric context that will help you appreciate this idea, which will help you connect to your audience on a philosophical, phenomenological level. Okay? So let's just look at his words again. Forget about how he phrases this and just look at what he's saying here. We're talking about secondness. So he's talking about the second level, the second category of phenomenological state in which we exist in the world. We are beings in the world, and we exist in the world. So second category, we are beings in the world. As Peirce says, genuine secondness was in experiencing. We experience a lot of things in our lifetimes which we don't always consciously process, but there's a lot there that you can tap into. So if you think about secondness as the state in which relation, action, and effort of the visual language that you choose starts to make more connections than at the iconic level, which we talked about last week. Iconic level is at the firstness. This is now moving up that level to relation, action, and effort. So it's no longer just about resembling things that, that reminds me of this, that reminds me of that resembles this, or whatever. This now is this. When you see this, it is this. When you see this, it can then mean that. And we're helping the audience make that connection to bigger concepts connotatively from the obvious to what they're looking at. So this is really bringing the audience into the interpretation. It's making the audience have agency of action over what we're putting in front of them. It takes effort on their part to see the relations of the visual language you're putting together to build a bigger picture of the concept your brief is asking you to communicate. Okay? If it was just, do an illustration of a chicken, that's just an illustration of a chicken. Okay? But if that chicken is meant to mean something else, then this is where semiotically you start to build up an idea into a bigger picture. Okay, so let's just move this forward to a bit of a summary. That in secondness, it's still within the state of being our human being in the world. And this secondness, the state of secondness, is connecting relations, actions, and efforts through us, our audience, in experiencing things that they've experienced in their lives. So it's finding roots from one to the other and pulling them in as visual language to connect stronger to our target audience. Okay? So by doing your research into your target audience, then you're going to be able to, strengthen your visual communication. So let's just tie this back into something we've already covered. And in previous videos, we've talked about indexical representation. Now, the index asserts nothing. It only says there. It takes hold of our eyes, as it were, and forcibly directs them to a particular object or concept. and there it stops. Now, indexical representation works within the phenomenological state of secondness. Iconic, firstness, indexical, secondness. Because at the indexical level, we are now pointing semiotically our audience to things that they already know and saying to them, when you see this, it is that. Okay? So it gives you more sign action power to push your semiotic communication to the next level. Okay? So the indexical sign is intrinsically within the state of secondness. And through ideation, you can connect with your audience by researching into the audience and tapping into that. So let's just get you the take home now. Okay, so each week we do a take home, and this bite-sized piece of applicable semiotic knowledge is: in a state of secondness, a semiotic sign gains more sign action power by helping audiences make real connections. It is within the state of secondness that our audiences move beyond spontaneous iconic resemblances to indexical representation. As designers and illustrators, by researching into your target audience's existing experiences, you can connotatively hook them into your work by gaining insights to existing things, as an example, actual things or even ideas, that can be a shorthand visual language hack straight into their attention. Now, this thought exercise is within the state of secondness. Okay? And it also means that what you're doing is, by just having the framework of firstness, secondness, and thirdness without having to worry too much about it, you are already thinking that the sign action power of semiosis sign action, is moving our audiences from not being aware that there's a particular semiotic sign working here to, yes, this resembles that, to then moving up to that is this. Okay? Next week, we're going to deal with the third level of phenomenological state, which is thirdness, which pulls it all together. So come back for that video. But for this week, that's it for now. Okay.
So that is our 10 minutes of Peircean Semiosis 101 for this week. Secondness. A Peircean phenomenological state identified with a sense of action and reaction in our audience. The aspect of experience where we know one thing is relative to something else. Secondness. A state of existent being where semiotic signs have existential relations as references to things out there in the world of real things and ideas. Okay, I admit it, I am getting very existentialist here, talking about being, as in existing in the world. This is a month of a philosophical grounding of Peirce's pragmatic semiotic theory of semiosis. Are you fresh to philosophical notion of being in the world? That's fine, but please bear with me on this and I'll embed it into a tangible aspect of working as an illustrator or designer. Well, without getting too existential on your creative assets here, Heidegger, another philosopher, talked about humans' existence in the world, a state of Dasein, being in the world. Now, Heidegger's Dasein theory helps us to at least appreciate that our existence in the world we know results in us humans interpreting our understanding of our existence moment by moment from the things we experience. Okay, that was a very quick summation of Dasein. But what about Peirce's secondness, I hear you cry? Well, I have two very quick thought experiments for you. First, as designers and illustrators, have you ever found that you lose yourself in your work so much so that you've lost track of time and been in the flow, resulting still in a successful work? I'd be very surprised if no one has, to some degree, experienced that sensation. Okay, second one. Now, as a human, have you ever subconsciously been in the flow in an everyday task where you just do it without thinking. But you have. Now, these states of flow are very subconscious, but lead you somewhere you need to be. These states are essentially phenomenological and happen because we exist in a world of interpreting things every second of our existence. Okay, back to secondness. This state that builds on the firstness state of qualities, resemblances and feelings. Secondness encompasses actions and reactions, knowing one thing is relative to something else from experience. The second level of representation of a concept, indexical, points to existing things. Now, we saw that in previous Semiosis 101 videos. Secondness, from an illustrator's or designer's point of view in semiotics, is the state the semiotic sign action that invokes our audience to make the semiotic jump from "that resembles X" to "that is X." Okay. Secondness is how Peirce defines that aspect of someone's state of being when these connections can be made and enacted from your effective semiotic crafting of the visual communication around what your audience has actual experience of. Next week we move on to thirdness and what that phenomenological state contributes to our designs and illustrations and how they work successfully. Come back next Wednesday, and while you're waiting, hit subscribe and the bell button to be the first for thirdness. Hi, if you've watched these videos before, you probably know by now I'm Dave Wood, a design educator and researcher, a published design author, and I've worked commercially as both a freelance illustrator and graphic designer. The guy behind the theory, Charles Sanders Peirce, was a philosopher, a mathematician, and a theorist, but he wasn't a creative. Each week on this Scout Scott Semiosis 101 YouTube channel, I'll post at least one 10-minute explainer video on an aspect of Peirce's pragmatic semiotic theory. Each free Semiosis 101 10-minute video will use designer-centric terms instead of theoretical language so that illustrators and graphic designers can understand and follow. Each video will feature a take-home piece of applicable semiotic theory, and they do interconnect to build up your understanding of semiosis. But this channel is not a course in semiotics per se. Instead, each video is a bite-sized illustrated piece of new knowledge on sign action, or semiosis as Peirce names it. The aim of these free videos is to take Peirce's quite complex philosophical theoretical language and put it in the context of designing visual communication, whether these are illustrations, motion, branding, packaging, editorial, etc. By subscribing to this Scout Scott Semiosis 101 YouTube channel, you will learn how Peirce's pragmatic semiotic theory of semiosis can help to enhance and improve how you visually communicate. I have many more Peircean semiotic topics to discuss, but I'd be interested in hearing about your semiotic ideas. Add a comment below. If you like this video, check out my other semiotic videos and consider liking and sharing those videos with others. The more we creatives discuss semiotic theory, the easier its application into our creative processes will be. As a fellow creative and a published design author, I have a link in the description to my Scout Scott website where you can find all the Semiosis 101 videos and read background info on the blog. You can download free Semiosis 101 video transcripts and reading lists. You can buy illustrated and typographical gift ranges on my Redbubble shop. You can also buy my 2014 design book published by Bloomsbury Publishing, Interface Design and Introduction to Visual Communication in UI Design. Over the years, I have collaborated with other design academic researchers and Peircean semioticians to develop a designer-centric explanation of Peirce's theoretical language. If you are interested in reading my semiotic Rosetta Stone academic writing, then you can visit my academia.edu link in the description. Any other books on Peircean semiotics or design I've mentioned in the videos are also listed in the description. Check them out too. Thanks for watching. Check out the other videos, like and share them with your friends, and hit the bell and subscribe buttons to be notified when next week's video is published. You can also follow Semiosis 101 on the socials for updates. Hit Scout_Scott on Instagram and Semiosis 101 on Twitter. See you all again next week for more Semiosis 101 to help illustrators and designers to enhance your visual communication skills.